Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Okay, this week is the season 2 of Bridgerton, and so I have a series of authors in this video that I think if you love Bridgerton and you want to either get started in historical romance or you want some type of writing or maybe books that has that similar vibe, I have some books to recommend for you. I love historical romance. It is my favorite subgenre of romance. I could read it literally every day of the year and never be disappointed or sad or feel like I need something else. It's just my comfort read. I love the swoony romance. I love the old-fashioned chivalry. I just love everything about it. So I have some of my favorite authors here that I feel like if you love Julia Quinn's Bridgerton series, I think that some of these would have elements that are similar in that vein that might appeal to you. So the first book that I have to recommend is a recent favorite author of mine, and that's Eloisa James. This book is When Beauty Tamed the Beast, and Eloisa James is a very, very well-known historical romance author. She has a huge backlog of books that you can get through. This one is my favorite of hers. This is one of my favorite historical romances. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it is full of charming, very clever, witty dialogue, great banter, great chemistry between the hero and heroine. Our hero is a damaged hero. He has scars. He is believed that he can't be intimate with a woman, and our heroine has recently been ruined because of a gown that she was wearing, and so her family has sent her to wed him because he is an earl and they're in disgrace and everything, so they're sort of thrown together, and he is determined not to love her, but she finds herself falling in love with him, and he finds that as well. There are some really, really fun nods in here to the Disney Beauty and the Beast, and it was just honestly a complete charming delight. I felt like this was historical romance perfection. It is so funny, it is so clever, it is steamy and romantic. I just adore this book so much, and I feel like if you like the banter and the charm of Julia Quinn's writing, I think you would absolutely love Eloisa James, because I feel like she is very similar to Julia Quinn in that way, but I think her books are a little bit elevated. They're a little more clever, a little more witty. Not that there's anything wrong with Julia Quinn, I love her dearly, but I think that these sort of take it to another level, so I would highly recommend Eloisa James. She has a ton of books in her backlog, but this one is a big standout for me. I love it so much. Okay, another author that I would definitely recommend if you are looking to read some more historical romances that have a similar element to the Bridgerton series is the Hathaway series by Lisa Kleypas. The first book in the series is Mine Till Midnight. So Lisa Kleypas is a rock star of historical romance. She is a huge deal. If you are new to historical romance, if you're not and you're here watching, you know what I mean. She has a huge breadth of work. All of her books are connected in some way, not all of them, but a lot of them are. She writes what I consider to be some of the most romantic historical romances that are also very steamy. There is a lot of sort of emotional turmoil in some of her books, but I think that she balances that out so well with some truly epic happily ever afters. And I picked this series specifically for fans of Bridgerton because if you really love the strong family element that the Bridgertons have, I think you would love her Hathaway series, and this one is also more accessible. I believe it's a 5-book series, and you don't need to read another series to get to this one. You can just jump right into this series, and honestly, I feel like you could probably read any of the books that I mentioned here out of order if they are in series, but this Hathaway series, I think you're not gonna be disappointed if you start with the first book because it's actually my favorite in the series. It's very, very romantic. We have our heroine who is sort of leading the charge in her family. Her parents have passed away. They had illness sweep through her family, and the man of the house now, her brother, the heir of the family, is definitely falling short on his duties of leading the family. He is drunk a lot of the time, and he is not really doing a good job with that, and he has heartbreak of his own. His love recently passed away because of that illness, so he's really struggling with that, and his answer is to bury that with alcohol. So Emilia, the heroine, is trying to get him to lead this family again, and to keep her family together and save them from ruin. He's also burning through their fortune, like very, very quickly. So when she goes to rescue him one night, she ends up meeting Cam Rohan, who is a Romany man, and he is a self-made man, which Lisa Kleypas is very famous for, writing self-made men who aren't necessarily titled, but they've sort of made a name for themselves and a fortune for themselves outside of that. And he is immediately struck with Emilia, and he just absolutely steps in, rises up to the plate, and sort of has that very strong, comforting presence of wanting to take care of Amelia and help her family, but Amelia is so independent that she definitely wants to do things herself. They are a perfect match. They have so much chemistry, and Cam is the type of hero that would literally burn the world down for his heroine, and I just love that so much. This book is fantastic. This is, again, one of my top 5 historical romances of all time. I adore this book. I think it's perfection, and this is a great series with a great family aspect to it. Another series that I want to recommend if you really love that strong family aspect is the Bennet Saga by Mary Bellog. Mary Bellog is also a very prolific historical romance writer. She has written many, many books. Her writing style is a little bit different than most of the other authors that I'm recommending. She definitely leans into a little bit more of a slowly building story. Her plots are often not over the top. She really writes a lot about everyday moments with people and finding love in situations that maybe you would think they wouldn't be able to. I love how she writes about very ordinary moments in people's lives and how that leads to love and romance. Like, I think she does that so beautifully and so perfectly. Her writing is just so delightful to sink into. It's really something that you can like sink your teeth into, savor some really beautiful lines, some really beautiful moments between the couple. And honestly, every time I read a Mary Bellog book, it just feels almost like a very relaxing vacation. I just adore her books so much, but they are different from a lot of the other historical romances that I'm writing here in that they're not necessarily fast-paced, fast-plotted, fast to steam. You really have to work to get, not work, but you have to work through the story to get the character's ultimate arc and happily ever after. But if you're a fan of the strong family aspect of the Bridgertons, I think you would love the Bennet Saga. Each book follows a sibling in that family, and this is actually, I believe this is book 2, Slightly Wicked. This has our heroine who ends up needing to be rescued from her stagecoach that has collapsed or crashed, basically, and the hero who comes in is Ranulph Bedwin, who is known to be a rake and a scoundrel. He sees this young woman, believes her to be an actress, and is immediately bowled over with his desire for her. They have one night of passion, part ways, and then come to find out he is actually supposed to be courting her cousin, but when he sees her again in this manor house where he's supposed to go and meet the cousin, he is completely just caught up in those feelings he had from their one night and wants to win her heart. It was beautiful. It was fun. I adore her books and her writing. If you love like the subtle gestures maybe of like a Pride and Prejudice movie, something that where every gesture, every hand touch, every glance is very emotionally charged, I think you would love Mary Bellog. She is a favorite of mine, but her books are definitely different in feel from the other books that I'm recommending. Okay, now this book is one that is a little bit different in that it's not set in England. This is not a Regency romance. It is a Highlander romance, but I am recommending this because the banter is excellent, the characters have great chemistry, and there is also a strong family element to the characters in this series, and it's also connected to her other series. So this book is the first book in her Highlander series. This is by Elisa Braden, and it is the making of a Highlander. So this book follows Mad Annie Tulloch, who is a Scottish woman, and she has a ghost for a best friend, and she believes that in order to save her best friend, she has to marry an English lord. So John Huxley comes to town, and he just so happens to be an English lord, and he is in this battle for a land arrangement with a friend. They've made this bargain, this deal, where he has to win the Scottish Games in order to get his land. He has no idea how to win these Scottish Games. He doesn't know what he's doing. So Annie comes along and they work out a bargain where she says, if you teach me how to be a lady, to secure a lord's hand in marriage so I can save my friend, I will teach you how to win these Scottish Games. So this book was a ton of fun. It has a touch of a little paranormal element to it. The writing of Elisa Braden is so consumable. I just absolutely love her stories. I think her romances have great chemistry. They have a great connection. Because this is a Highlander romance, we have a lot of Annie's Scottish brothers who are big, huge Highlander men, and the sense of family there is very strong and very beautiful, and they come into play in further books in the series. So if you want a strong family element with great chemistry, with a really sharp dialogue and a snappy plot, I would highly recommend this book too. Okay, and another writer that I would recommend if you love sort of, not really bonkers, but sort of more creative plots where things are kind of happening that have a strong mystery element to the plot, I would definitely recommend Jennifer McQuiston. This is the first book in her seduction diaries. It's The Perks of Loving a Scoundrel. This book starts with our heroine, who is a very bookish heroine. She is a little bit almost on the shelf. She's almost approaching spinsterhood, and she is very well known for absolutely loving her books and her stories, and she is content to get lost within them and experience adventure that way instead of living her own life. She ends up going to visit her sister, who is about to give birth, and one morning when she is at her sister's house, she wakes up very early and thinks she's going to go read in the garden. When she goes out there, she finds this very handsome man who she immediately recognizes as this very well-known scoundrel and rake. It's early in the morning, so she knows that he's been out partying all night long. And she's like, oh no, I don't want him to see me. And then she hesitates and she realizes that he is not just in the garden, he's actually peeing on her rose bushes. So that's how they meet. It's very funny. It's very clever. These two end up having a lot of great chemistry. They end up really working on this mysterious plot throughout the course of the book, which was a ton of fun. And I just really, really loved this very bookish heroine displaying so much independence and strength of will as she's trying to further figure out this mystery plot while still having a lot of desire and connection with the hero, and the hero is just immediately attracted to her, finds her intellect very charming and attractive, and I just thought this book was a ton of fun, and I would definitely recommend it. I feel like not many people talk about Jennifer McQuiston. She doesn't have a very extensive backlist as a lot of the other authors that I've talked about, but she does have some very charming reads that are great historical romances. And another author that I want to recommend that has a strong family aspect into it is Erica Ridley. This is book 2 of her Winchester family series. It's The Perks of Loving a Wallflower. This is a sapphic romance with 2 female heroines who fall in love. It is absolutely beautiful. It is so swoony. I love the Winchester family, which is basically this found family of orphans who have come together and are sort of, not really crime fighters, but they're basically solving mysteries and I guess essentially crimes. But in this book we have Thomasina Winchester, who is known for being able to put on disguises all the time. Like, she is a master of disguise, basically, man or woman, and when she meets our heroine Philippa, who is a blue stocking, Philippa believes that she is actually a man. She doesn't know that she's a woman right at first, and Philippa believes that she can't love. She's had some relationships and a failed engagement where she wasn't even disappointed at all that it failed, and she's just decided that, you know what, I don't think that I'm capable of love or attraction. So imagine her surprise when she meets Thomasina, who is helping her be able to make this truth known about these papers who are written, that she wants to make sure it goes to the credit of the woman who actually wrote them instead of the man who is claiming to have written them. So Thomasina and her work together on that aspect. And Philippa is very, very happily surprised to see that Thomasina is actually a woman in disguise. Their romance was slow building. It was so beautiful, and I really, really loved this story of accepting who you are and finding love with the person in your life who you were maybe surprised that you would fall in love with them. I thought this was beautiful, romantic, swoony. I thought it was just perfect, and the found family aspect was fantastic. And the last author that I have to recommend, who I think that if you read Julia Quinn, or if you liked Julia Quinn, I think you would definitely love this author, and that is Tessa Dare. Tessa Dare has a very extensive backlist. She is very well known for writing very fun, easy to get into historical romances that almost read a little bit like a rom-com, but have that epic swoony feel of a historical romance too. Her books are very steamy, her books are very clever, very witty, great banter, and she is just a fantastic writer who I feel like you could pick up any of her series at any point and jump into them and not be lost. I feel like this is an author that you don't have to read her books in order. I think that if you're just looking for a pick-me-up, a happy read that is pretty low angst, I would recommend Tessa Dare. She's really known for her banter, and I think it's for good reason. She is a fantastic writer, and she also has a huge backlist that you can dive into. She's a gem, and she's completely fantastic. I love her books so much. All right, there you have it. Those are the books that I would recommend. If you have read Bridgerton or watched Bridgerton and you want more of that type of story, I love all of these authors. I love all of these books, and I hope that you love them too. And if you have any recommendations for a book that gave you feelings similar to what I've been talking about, things that you would recommend for fans of Bridgerton, please feel free to leave that in the comments. If you just want to leave me an emoji to let me know you were here, please feel free to leave me any color of heart. Thank you so much, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.